Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. It is a new edition, and I don't even know, guys, what we're going to call this ridiculousness that we're doing on Wednesday nights, but let's call it the WJOL Sports Guys That Aren't Able to Do Sports show. Nah, doesn't work. I'm Edgy Tim, if you haven't figured that out, and I am very happy and excited to bring in my two guests. Certainly the first one you will know from many, many years as my co-host on Thursday nights during the football season on 1340 WJOL in Joliet. You know him, you love him, the one, the only, Joe Rodriguero. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Edge. Good evening, everybody out there.
And, of course, the monkey in the middle. You know him, you love him. Long-time play-by-play voice at 1340 WJOL, and always glad to have Dave Dwyer joining us. And Dewey, appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit around for an hour and talk utter nonsense with us.
Not much else going on.
It's really sad. Right. It's really sad when we have to get together and talk on a Zoom call, on a stream when we've been shut down. So again, the thoughts behind the show. We're just kind of here to talk whatever. You're more than happy to join us. We have a text chat feature. I just said hello to everybody out there. If you're following the show, you can join in. Give us your thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent. Feel free to let me know. Who knows? I might even use your text, your thoughts as part of the show. So if you have questions about anything sport related, maybe even about Dave Dwyer. Maybe we'll do a Dewey trivia night here. By all means, hit us on the text. Love to hear from you. This is going live on my Facebook page right now as we speak, via live video on Facebook. Also on my YouTube channel as well. So, gentlemen, we are generally worldwide with this nonsense. So there you go. Again, calling it the Edgy Chat because I can't really think of a better name for now. Sponsors are more than welcome. As you can see, our first sponsor at the very bottom here, Soho Cheesecakes. Excellent cheesecakes if you're in the Joliet area. Visit them at Soho Cheesecakes on Facebook. And my girl Shannon will take care of you. Get those Christmas orders in because, gentlemen, believe it or not, it's coming. It's coming very fast.
Very soon.
All right. Well, first of all, let's start from the world of IHSA. And last week compared to this week, guys, there's not much to talk about. Status quo. We are in lockdown. We continue to be on lockdown. No basketball. Dave Dwyer, I know that's killing you at this time of the year because I would think you would be starting to think about gearing up for Pontiac. And it's amazing to me that tournaments that have such tradition, and I mean, Dewey, these are tournaments that went on during wartime and not happening this year.
Well, Pontiac, the biggest, the best, been involved in that for almost 30 years. Part of the ritual going down there. Town does a great job. They always have. It's the one tournament that gets teams from all over the states, and just the camaraderie factor and the job they do, definitely one of the big ones that's going to be missed this year.
Yeah, it's just so different with everything. And like even this week's the IHSA High School Football Coaches Convention, which is usually in the spring. Now they're doing it virtually and it's all online, and usually it's a big week. And Joe, as you know, anytime there's a coaches convention, it's usually a gathering of guys that are looking to have a few drinks and to have a good time. And
no, not at all.
I know it's shocking to hear, but now it's all online. So if they're doing that, they're doing it from their homes, and it's just really strange. It's changed. It's changed so much in so many things. I've got to imagine, Joe, from the school side, it's the same where, everything's socially distant. I got to imagine teachers and meetings and everything else is pretty much the same as well.
Right. All our meetings last Thursday, we had the PSAT test for the underclassmen. and we had a virtual social studies meeting as all the disciplines had their own meetings for the day, and just looking at computer and just talking to people in the social studies department at Lamont. I mean, it's just like I said before, Edge and Dewey. Would you rather be there? You rather have the kids there? You rather have, just again, as with the coaches clinics and stuff, it's just the camaraderie, seeing the guys after a winter and getting to see them again and just shooting the breeze and having a few diet pops and listening to speakers and trying to get something out of the clinic, because it's always good to get something. That's why I always go. There's always something to learn.
Was able to talk to a handful of administrators this week, and it's funny because I get asked as many questions about what am I hearing and when do you think things will go back and we'll start. I'm getting those from administrators, and I'm thinking, what are you asking me for? You're the ones that are supposed to have this answer. And Dewey and Joe, it goes to show you that no one really knows what's going on. And guys, I said this a long time ago when this first started, and it hasn't been proven wrong yet. And we said this last week, until kids, I think, are physically back in school on a relatively consistent basis, I don't see sports firing up. Do we agree, disagree?
I agree. I'm not sure of every school. I mean, I know, for example, some schools are doing the after winter break 2-week home quarantine in case anyone went anywhere. So that's more or less going to get us to mid-January.
Right. Yeah, it's Joe. And I've heard a lot of kids that I've talked to all over the state. It's been the same thing. Well, they've already told us we're on lockdown until maybe next semester. And
Right.
Is that kind of the approach at Lamont
Right.
as well?
And as I said before, when we were all on last week, we're at 25%. Some schools are 50.
Yep.
Some might be a little bit more than that. As far as sports is concerned, I don't think there'll be any inkling of any type of sport till at least we go 50-50. Where one day the kid 50% will be there, then the next day the next group will be there, and so on. So until we can get to at least 50% or a percentage of kids that are the 50% that gets up to, let's face it, some schools are at 50% right now, but only about 17 to 20% of the kids are actually physically going to school. The rest of them are staying online. So I think until they get to that number, get that percentage up more, you're right, Edge. I don't think we'll see athletics at all.
The thing that no one really talks about, and again, it's something really hard to equate, but a lot of the kids that I talk to, obviously covering recruiting, I'm talking to kids every single day. And most of them are pretty straightforward about it and have been pretty honest to how things have gone. Guys, my biggest fear is certainly from the football side, and it could be said for Joe, your baseball side and all the other sports. With football, I'm afraid of the fact that, I think we kick the can down the road, and if we don't fire back up in February, boy, I think, you talk about the mental side of this and the depression and everything else, Joe and Dewey. I'm really worried at this point, because the longer this goes, the less chance I see us starting up in the spring, and just the impact on kids. It would not be good. That's just the feeling I get. Joe? Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's always, as I always said, they're always giving us that carrot in front to keep the horse moving. You know what I'm saying? And they're saying, well, we could start in January. Well, could is a big word. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to have to make a decision whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And my biggest fear is, being a teacher and a coach, is that we get to the second semester and we still hang in what we're doing right now. And as the semester gets to January, February, and then March comes and they're still not deciding what they're going to do, the kids are not only going to lose interest, they want to play sports, they're going to lose interest in school. Yeah. I mean, and I know they have to get their grades and they have to graduate. I teach seniors, and as I said last week, right now there's still that energy a little bit, even though we only have 25%, and 3 to 5 kids are in the classroom with me every day, and but I think as we get closer to those, let's say the starting date for football, and let's say you just play football, and then they say, well, you know what, we're not, then those kids are going to lose interest automatically.
Right.
I saw it last year with the senior, because I teach seniors, so I saw it last year where fewer and fewer kids came to the Google Meets because they were just frustrated at everything that was going on, and it's not in our control, and that's the big thing, and I think the kids last year didn't quite understand it. They understand it right now. But I think, like I said, when the second semester rolls around, it's going to be a completely different ball game, and the kids are going to feel the same way the seniors did last year.
Dewey, you have a young son that plays youth sports, and I'm sure it's impacted him to some effect. Just your thoughts on that subject as well.
Well, he's no basketball. Indiana was doing basketball. I think they still are. Didn't want to go down that road. We were doing indoor flag football. That's been shut down till at least January. So he'll start baseball training soon. One thing to bring up, guys, and Edge, I know you and I talked about this, but Joe, you got to look at this. A lot of the schools south of I-80, what do you do in a situation if they do try to play baseball, basketball, football all in a short time? In the middle of the winter, there's nowhere near the indoor facilities, especially for the smaller schools.
Oh, I agree, and I've talked to Edge about this too, Dewey. And it's like we have a field house at Lamont, and we have a basketball facility that's strictly for basketball and volleyball. Okay, so you've got baseball, softball, football, you got all these different sports, and I wouldn't want to be an AD at this time. I'll tell you that right now, because that'd be one huge headache trying to get all those teams involved. When let's face it, the weather in March isn't conducive. You've been, you're doing the Don Lattice thing, freezing out there, and just like we are in the dugouts. But there was some years we had some good weather, but the last few years we've had actually games canceled because it's snow and cold and all this other stuff, and it's just not conducive to sports or to good play, and kids are going to get hurt when that happens.
Yeah, and again, we were some of the same discussions I had was we talked about, have people really thought about taking kids out for a football practice on February 15th? And no one really has. I mean, guys, we've lived here our whole lives. How's the weather on February 15th?
Bad.
Pretty bad. What are we talking, like 10, 15 degrees, 40-mile-an-hour winds usually? Yeah.
I mean, you get that into April. I mean, it's no matter, it doesn't really start we might have days here and there where it's warm and get to 70 degrees, and the next day it's 40. I mean, it really doesn't stay consistently warm until maybe June.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some Junes where the first couple of weeks in June was really cold. So you can't count on the weather. That's the one thing. If the IHSA or Governor Pritzker is thinking about all that, it's not going to happen.
No, there's so I believe it's later this week. It might be next week. I need to double check. I apologize. I think it's next week. I think it might be the 16th. There's an IHSA regularly scheduled meeting. Everything I've heard is don't expect a whole lot to come out of that. Honestly, that there's going to be some talk of, maybe moving forward on some things. And there's been talk about extending contact days for all sports. As of right now, people I've talked to said they kind of haven't heard one thing or the other. So either we're going to get inundated with all kinds of stuff, or again, we're going to kick the can down the road until January. I guess that's the only thing I can think of is January. They'll take a look like everyone else, like we talked about. Okay, let's get into the next semester, and then we'll see where we're at with everything. As far as what can change it, I mean, it's got to be the vaccine, right?
Oh, most definitely. I totally agree with that.
It's
got to be, because that's the only way out.
I agree. The other thing I want to bring up before we get too far off kilter here is, you guys know this. When you get into the spring, basketball is used to the conditions, baseball's used to the conditions. Football, they're used to getting going when it's extremely warm out. They're
Yep.
used to having enough prep time. Guys, as you know, we might have some rain or whatnot, but usually at least the first 5 weeks of the season, temperature is not an issue generally.
Right.
So my concern, if they do go with all this, the injuries.
Oh, yep.
And do we now need to put in cold policy? We have a heat policy for excessive heat in July and August for football, and September for that matter. So now do we have to turn around and put a excessive cold policy into place? I would think so, right?
Well, when I was in the Catholic League, Edge, they had a 40-degree limit where if it was 35, 34 degrees, they said we're not going to play. So
That was for baseball, though.
right, that was just baseball. But football, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So again, millions of questions. Dewey, that's a good one for sure. That we just don't know the answer to, and I'm not real confident, at least on the football side, we're going to get a whole lot of guidance really anytime soon. And again, we kicked the can down the road. All right, let's get off that. Let's go on. And by the way, if you're watching this, thanks for watching. If you see the little text feature, you can join us. If you got questions, send me whatever you have. We'll be glad to answer it. Include your question as part of the show. And again, plan is to be here every Wednesday night for about an hour. And as you can tell, we'll very casual and just throw some different things back and forth. So baseball, we are on the hot stove. It's been certainly from the south side of town. It's been an interesting few days. But I'm expecting that to change. Joe, I'll start with you. Very busy day yesterday. Well, a day and a half. White Sox pick up Lance Lynn in a trade for Dane Dunning and a young minor leaguer. And then they bring back a familiar name onto the south side, and Adam Eaton, 1-year contract, $7 million with a club option in 2022. Joe Rodiguero, longtime White Sox fan, your thoughts on the latest moves from our White Sox?
I like the Lance Lynn deal. We should have had him last year. You and I talked heavily about that when that was going down last February or March. He's an innings eater.
Yep. And an eater.
And an eater. He is a big man with a big beard.
Look. When was Joe Dewey? When was the last time we had a fat guy to root for on the South Side?
Cologne, yeah.
Bartolo Colon.
Yeah, you're right.
So he's automatically is going to be a folk hero.
Yes.
Outside. So
without a doubt. He's one of us.
Yeah. So he's already going to be embraced. And then the reaction with Adam Eaton's been very interesting, to say the least, Joe.
I don't agree with it, but that's just me. I like Michael Brantley better out there. I really do.
It's disappointing. I mean, again, it's such a White Sox thing to do. And Dewey, I can say that because I'm a Sox fan. It's one good step forward, and then you kick yourself in the butt on your next move. It's like, okay. And I said this, I'm going to be very fair. I did this last year. I will wait until all the moves are done, and then I'll grade it. So Eaton might be the D out of the overall B grade, possibly. Because I think they could make, I definitely think they're not done. I definitely think, Joe, the Sox are going to make more moves, possibly another trade, and we'll grade it overall. But I agree. I think most Sox fans will agree. I mean, let's face it. We're going back, bringing Adam Eaton back is reliving a period between the Drake LaRoche era, the Sale cutting up the jersey era.
Yeah, I remember that.
Joe, I don't want to remember that era. I don't want to go back there. I want to forget it and put it in the past. Okay. But now, how can we when one of the ringleaders is back in the clubhouse?
Yeah,
that scares me.
And again, though, I think that the clubhouse with the younger guys and especially with Abreu, because Abreu, I think they mentioned on the radio, was on the team when the last year Eaton was with the Sox. But I think the chemistry in the locker room has changed since Eaton's been there, and it's already established. And I just think there's some stronger people, Anderson and Abreu, and you got again, I wouldn't want Robert being mad at me at any time soon, that's for sure. Or if he tries, I mean, I think that with all the problems that the Sox had or in the clubhouse with Eaton before, hopefully it won't be. I don't think it'll be a problem this year. I really don't. If not, they got to just get rid of him.
Let's go to the resident North Sider in the room. First, Dewey, any thoughts on the Sox move so far? And what is going to be the first shoe to fall when it comes to the Cubs moves in the offseason? Because they're going to have to make some moves.
Well, I'll get to that. For you guys, Lance Lynn, I was a proponent for this deal long ago. I feel if you had him, you win that playoff series against Oakland. So I think it's a good move. What I don't understand about the Eaton thing, and I've talked with you guys. So what's the big plan here? Are they done? Are they going to get another outfielder? Is Eloy destined to be DH? But what my question is for you two in that outfield mix, you got a guy in Adam Engel.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up.
Everything that's been asked of. Solid defender. And I know last year was a shortened season, but the guy hit 295.
He hit. Yeah, fine.
To me, that's better than Eaton at this point.
Joe?
That's your perfect 9-hitter, in my opinion, 8 or 9 hitter. And I agree with you, Dewey. I thought he earned his stripes as far as I was concerned. And after Giolito threw the no-hitter, I called Edgy, and I said, as soon as that guy hit the ball, I'm thinking Missouri's in right field. I go, dang it, that's it. Well, I didn't say dang it. I said something else. but I thought it was a hit, and all of a sudden there's Engel out there catching the line drive, and I didn't even know he was in the game. I think he's a very good defender, and like you said, he can hit, and I think he's giving him a little bit more time now. Can you win a championship with him every day in right field? I don't think so.
That's the question. I think that's the bigger philosophical question for the White Sox. Dewey, it's a great question. It's one that I've been bringing up. And guys, I don't know, Joe, for whatever reason, I just don't think Sox management trusts Engel.
Yeah,
you do.
I agree, because again, they kept throwing Missouri out there, and Engel hit righties and lefties. I mean, he was very solid in that 8 or 9 hole all year when he got a chance to play.
Yep. So again, Dewey, it's a great point. I hope they're not done. I don't think they're done. The good thing is we already have a lefty named Adam on the team, so we can move forward, because we always have to have one, and he's probably going to be horrible for us. So that's a positive for us. I'm kidding, of course. I think the Sox have to get another bat. I would prefer a lefty power bat, but I preferred that for at least a decade, and it hasn't really happened. So, and I think closer. I think Colomé is probably an option to bring back. And let's face it, Joe, he's another guy that he's been really good for the White Sox, but do you trust him?
Yeah. Every time he went in the game last summer, I would just hold my breath half the time. I mean, you get the first 2 outs, and then you load the bases up, and then finally get the third out. I know there's some kicking of the tires of possibly the Oakland closer. I really like him a lot.
Me too.
I really do.
If they Dewey would sign Brantley and get Hendricks in a trade, or however they are as a free agent, I think that'd be a great offseason, even with Engel in the mix. It'd be a great offseason. So
and the guy is, they're going to miss, and I really do, is McCann. You and I have talked a lot about him Edge over the summer and stuff. I think he's going to be missed in the clubhouse and on the field. I think he's showed that the last 2 years that he is a tremendous receiver.
Yeah.
After Giolito threw the no-hitter, when I talked to Edgy Dewey, I said, he's got to catch Giolito for the rest of the year. I don't care if they got a right-hand pitcher. I don't care. He has to catch Giolito the rest of the year, because he knows how to call a game. He knows what the pitcher can do, and he's going to be sorely missed.
and he'll be gone because he's going to be a $9-10 million a year player, and he's going to sign a 3-year deal.
Right. And he deserves it.
You're not going to pay that for a backup catcher. You're just
No,
not. So
no.
you signed your fate when you traded for Grandal last year, which is fine. I mean, but I agree, Joe. Yeah, he's very, very valuable. Dewey, the Cubs. I hear Yankees, Blue Jays, Boston, the teams that I think we talked about with Schwarber, 2016, 17. If you were looking to move him, those are the teams that probably would take him. It sounds like he's in the same boat with a lot of other guys, quote unquote, DH possibilities, waiting if Major League Baseball eventually decides if there's a universal DH or not. So, I mean, I'll go back to my original question to you. What's going to be the first shoe to fall? What's going to be the first move do you think the Cubs make?
That's a great question. I mean, you already have the Jed philosophy over Theo going in because Theo was a big Schwarber guy. You can joke about the announcer thing, but I wonder if Theo was still there if Len Casper would have made the move. You have a lot of issues. You have revenue issues. You have contracts coming up. To me, the untradeable in my minds that you keep outside of the pitching staff, which we could talk about, is Rizzo and Baez.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Bryant, you get anything offered, I think you have to because they're not going to pay what Boris wants him to get, and his productivity doesn't deserve it.
No. One bad year. Injury.
Not just that, Edge. You go back and you look since 2016, games played and his production, it's not been all that great.
Yeah. It's a good point. You'll love this. I saw some rumblings of John Lester and White Sox being mentioned. That'd be interesting. So Schwarber, so Bryant. You mentioned pitching. What do you do with pitching?
Well, you got Darvish, you got Hendricks.
Would Darvish be on the block?
Well, I think you're open for anything for the right price at this point.
Right.
The question is are they in full rebuild mode? Are they listening? There's a lot of mystery on the north side right now.
Yep. You mentioned Len Casper. I was very surprised, almost shocked. Now, again, people in that industry, I mean, his contract was up, so I guess anything can really happen whenever that's the case. But I mean, Dewey, longtime Cub fan. I mean, I respected him as a Sox fan, the job that he did. On the other side of town. I mean, your thoughts on Len Casper?
Well, did a great job, and you hate to see it happen as a Cub fan. I'm not sure how much Marquee had to do with this. I'm not thrilled with what I see with Marquee, with what they're doing overall and all that.
Yeah.
I do know this much. You guys have the best guy you've had in your radio booth since John Rooney left.
Agreed.
Yep, I agree.
Joe, what did I tell you when that went down? I said, outside of rehiring John Rooney,
yep,
I agree. This is the next best option as far as I'm concerned. So It's a great upgrade. There's no doubt. Yeah, you mentioned Marquee, and and again, I try to, Dewey, I try to be very fair and balanced when it comes to talk about the Cubs and my opinions. I try not to get overly, but the thing that really caught my attention is when Marquee started and they got going, I thought it was kind of vanilla. And people I had talked to in that industry that work in that business tended to agree with me that, yeah, it was not exactly what I think a lot of people had hoped. Now, you're watching it all the time. And let's face it, they launched a network in the middle of a pandemic. So I can understand maybe them pulling back on what their initial plans or what they wanted it to be. But was that your feeling as well? Year one with Marquee? A little underwhelming?
Honestly, I didn't watch much. I watched enough, but I like the old format. I like Kaplan. He's a Chicago guy. He's dialed in. I didn't like the fact that Kelly Kroll was gone.
Yeah.
That's another piece. Now you got Casper gone, and you don't have a lot of relatable guys in there to people like me who've been a long time, Cub fan. Look at you guys. You got your studio. Garfine. I love Chuck. Does a great job.
Yep.
You mix in Ozzy. You mix in Melton. You mix in Frank. That's what it should be.
And, and again, this is a Sox fan talking. And Joe, I'd love your thoughts on this too. I'm just not a big fan of Ryan Dempster. I never have. Everyone thinks he's so funny. I just don't. He just kind of annoys me. Chris Myers is fine. But again, I'll go back to vanilla. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's a Chicago team. It's a Chicago, let's face it, it's a Chicago entity at this point. And, you got a guy like, and here's a guy I'll mention, like Doug Glanville. I thought Doug Glanville was great. I mean, when Doug Glanville did the MLB stuff and the national stuff with ESPN, he was great. There's a guy that should have been involved somehow, and he's not. And I mean, I don't know, Joe, did you get a chance to watch any of the marquee stuff at all?
Yeah, I watched the Cubs a little bit too, and I didn't watch too much of the post game stuff because again, I don't
Sox fan, so
yeah,
I mean,
but again, I didn't care for. I mean, it seemed like there was some different guys on there almost every night sometimes, and you're right, Dempster to me, is not a very good analyst, and I know he because he pitched in the major leagues and he does work in the front office, doesn't he, for the Cubs someplace? I don't know. But again, it seems like they just plug guys in there rather than getting, not that he's not a smart baseball person, but to get guys who've done it for years and try to keep the people on the marquee network after a Cubs game. I would just kind of watch it for about a minute and just shut it off and watch either the rest of the Sox game or listen to Comcast.
Yeah. And I mean, I think what the Cubs are going to go through some changes, and you're mentioning some names that are going to be gone. And I think, obviously Cub fans are bummed and kind of saw this coming, but now this is coming from the South side. I think what Cub fans are going to miss probably the most, Dewey, and you can reply to this either way. Besides being really good players for you and bringing home a World Series, a lot of them are really likable guys. I mean, Chris Bryant is a likable guy. Rizzo's a really likable guy. It's a group, and Schwarber, same thing, seems like a great kid. And I think that was genuine. I think I've accused the Cub management for many years of creating a lot of that, and we're warm and fuzzy and everything. But I thought that team, Dewey, it was legitimate. It was a group of really good guys that played like a team and got along really well.
It's hard to win, obviously a title. That group's intentions with that was to win more than one. But no matter what happens from here on out during the Theo regime, you've looked at the greatest run in the history of the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, it's fair enough. All right, well,
I got a question for you, Dewey. With Chris Bryant, and I've got many Sox fans I talked to, and I've talked to Edgy about this. Do you think his lack of the production he was still producing, but the production going down had anything to do with him playing all over the field? In 2016, again, I can't recall that far. I got lucky. I remember what I had for dinner last night. But he just primarily played third base in 2016, correct?
Correct.
I mean, and then they started, I guess it was the curse of having too much talent on the Cubs, because now he's playing left field and right field, center field sometimes. And I think his injuries occurred when he was in the outfield.
Wasn't that a lot of Madden though, Dewey?
Yeah, there was a lot of Uncle Joe there.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know how healthy he still is.
Yeah.
I
agree.
think he's banged up.
I agree.
Well, isn't that part of the whole issue with him is the swing with the follow through, that he's constantly going to be torquing that shoulder? I had thought I heard someone talk about that kind of description where unless he really, really modifies that swing, it's going to continue to be an issue. Joe, does that make any sense?
Oh, it does. I mean, definitely with the front shoulder. And every time the launch angle type swing is going to have that. It's going to have with your front shoulder, especially that's the arm that actually starts that bat angle going that way.
Yeah.
And you saw the pitchers this past summer going to more fastballs up in the zone to try to combat that. Pitchers aren't. I always say pitchers, once they get on that circle in the middle of the diamond, they lose their minds. All they concentrate on is home plate, not worried about pick. But again, as a pitcher, they've adjusted now to that type of swing now. So the hitters are going to have to change somewhat in their swing and their approach.
One more for Dewey before we move on to football. Will Cub fans accept a tear down and rebuild, or is that not possible anymore?
Oof. Well,
coming at you hard, Dewey. Come on now.
It depends on what you're doing. Are you tearing down because you're going to spend money to lock up Rizzo and lock up Javi, and that's your logic? Yes, it would be accepted. To clean house and be mediocre and lose one of them would not go over well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But would they still go? Probably.
Oh, they're always going to go.
They're always going to,
especially now.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been able to go.
Well, and let's face it, it's Cub world now too. I mean, between the hotel and the restaurants and everything else, I mean, it's I mean, I don't see a time where it's going to fall off anytime soon. So, but it is, I think it is interesting that asked that question because you've won the World Series, you've got all that in place, and I just don't see. I mean, I guess you could do it because, like we mentioned, the fans are still going to go, they're still going to support, but it's interesting to think about. Football. Well, if you love football, you literally can turn the TV on any night of the week and there's NFL on.
Now.
Last night, I had Fox on at about 6:15. I usually take a glance at Big Bang Theory. Boom, there's a pregame for the Ravens and who is it? San Francisco, somebody?
Dallas.
It's amazing with COVID and the same impact with college. I mean, there's not going to be a Michigan Ohio State game this year. I mean, it's been crazy. It's amazing that they've been able to get in as much as they've been able to get in. I mean, will NFL finish the year? Will college have bowl seasons? I mean, I'm going to imagine they will because they've been able to fight through it so far, but it's never slow with football these days, guys, and COVID.
Well, here's 2 points, Edge. One, on Christmas, when the NFL plays the game that's scheduled that day, this will be the first time ever there's been an NFL game every day of the week throughout the course of the season.
Yeah.
And I want to get your thoughts on the Ohio State situation and the decision today.
It's all about money, dude.
I know.
It's what it's all about.
Yep.
I don't, and honestly, I don't think, I mean, I have no bias one way for any Big Ten team, honestly, but I mean, is there a better team than Ohio State to represent you? I mean, I probably don't think so. I know they haven't played enough games, but if you're going by the odds and what you've been able to see and what they've been able to do, I mean, I kind of get it, but it's crazy. It's just.
Well, Indiana's awfully good.
Oh, I know.
They are good.
But is it one of those where your bowl committee is going to get together and go, well, it might be different if your starting quarterback didn't get hurt. And, and I know they won with the backup and Indiana's got a great case, but I mean, I don't know.
I'd love to see Northwestern beat them. That'll throw a big wrinkle in the
thing. Come on, Joe.
Is Northwestern going to be able to score enough points? That, to me, that's the key.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, we'll find out. But it's they're doing the best they can. Same with football. They're trying to find their way through it, and it's just been crazy. It continues to be crazy. But again, it's about TV money. It's what it's all about. It's why do you think they're playing games with no fans? Because the money's still good enough to play with games with no fans, and I do find the dynamic interesting when you're watching games from across the country, though, where some states there's no fans, Other states, there's a little fans, like family. You can tell there's like family in the crowd. Some states, there's a little more than others. And I mean, it's just kind of a reflection of what's going on these days, I suppose. But yeah, it's crazy. Dewey, you're a Bears fan, right?
Absolutely.
So we're all Bear fans. I asked this the last time, and we kind of brush it off at the end. At this point, why are we still Bear fans?
We're glutton for
Hardcore
punishment.
loyal.
Okay, I get it. Look, got an order coming in. Yeah, deliver that pizza. Get it over here, will you? Thanks. So,
Live TV, you gotta love it.
Gotta love it. You want to bet it's gonna ring in about 2 minutes? So, okay, look, loyalty. Look, you're a Cub fan, Dewey. Joe, you're a Sox fan. I'm a Sox fan. We get loyalty because let's face it, there's no other reason to be a Cub fan or a Sox fan unless it's loyalty. But I mean, do we have to be Bear fans, really? I mean, is it so against conventional wisdom to say, you know what? I've just had enough. There's a lot of good football teams out there that could use a good fan like me. I mean, look, we're too old.
Yeah.
Our fate was sealed, right?
Yeah.
Decades ago. Decades and decades and decades ago. I tried as a youngster, here I'm sharing with you kids. I tried as a youngster growing up to be a Minnesota Viking fan and was mocked and belittled and ridiculed in my house until I stopped being a Minnesota Viking fan. So I've been a Bear fan ever since. And, you know, boy, after what's been going on this year, why? Dewey, why? Why do we continue to put up with this?
Beginning of the end was letting Lovey go after winning season. The Lovey era produced better records, division titles, playoff wins than anybody combined ever since.
Yeah.
Lovey's opening statement at the press conference when he got hired, I'll never forget it, beat Green Bay.
Yep.
And he did. The Packers and Bears, the last 21 times they have met, Green Bay has won 18.
Hey, you see on the Joe LaPointe joining us, we get Bears Monday.
Oh, sweet.
It's Bears Monday. So, yeah, it's I guess that's something we can look towards. But, yeah, it's funny. Thanks, Joe, for adding that, by the way. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a look.
Vic Fangio, I'm going to tell you this. The beginning of the end with this current team, as good as it was, is losing him. Pagano is nowhere near the coordinator. Yeah. And to me, Fangio is not a head coach. And you Joe, you know this.
Yep.
There's certain guys who coach, they have a role. Some of them try to step out of that box. Vic Fangio, great defensive coordinator, not a head coach.
Right. Well, I totally agree. Some guys are made to be head coaches and some are just coordinators. And I mean, Fangio is definitely one. I definitely agree with you, Dewey, there.
We play in hands down the worst stadium in the NFL.
Oh.
Hands down. I mean, it's not even close.
No.
You know, it's just, God, it's so frustrating. It's really hard to be a Bears fan. I mean, I have friends of mine that are out of state that call up and go, God, man, how can you watch that? We're Bear fans.
We're just Bear fans.
Could be a Jet fan.
In my question, and I hate to go back to the game on the other night, but
get it out, Joe.
Well, this is even after Trubisky fumbled the ball, they're trying to run the clock out, and I agree with all this stuff. That why throw the ball there?
I know.
Punt the ball, and what that tells me is he didn't trust the defense. But on their 4th and 1 play, just by watching it on TV, and I didn't get a chance last night to see the last couple minutes. I wanted to, and I just was watching probably something on MLB Network, so I didn't see it. But when he gave the ball to Montgomery, I don't know if that was an RPO or not, But the defensive end who made the first contact on Montgomery just crashed down immediately. If Trubisky takes that ball and runs around, he could have got 10 yards at least, because the corner was on the wide receiver. I don't know if it was Robinson or not, and the safety was at least 15 to 20 yards back. And he could have got the first down very easily. It was like he just didn't even look at you. He was just going to run the play rather than trying to run that option. So I don't think he can read defenses. I really don't. As much as we'd like to see him, they always say he's a good guy, yeah. But again, you got to prove yourself on the field, and he has not done that.
And by the way, just thanks to Coach Big Pete from Deep Dish Pizza. Good live stream. Appreciate that, Pete. We plan on being here every Wednesday night for an hour at least. So make sure to join us. Yeah.
Here's the difference, guys.
Yeah.
First of all, that offensive line is brutal. There's no other way around it.
Yep.
Well,
say this about Trubisky, Rod. You got to say this over Folds. He gives him that scrambling option, and the mistakes he made, yes, but that should have been more than enough points to win that game.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Well, you know where your linemen are, don't you, Dewey? They're part of the Khalil Mack trade. They're part of. I mean, you look at what they've given up, and look, I love Mack. He's been a great addition. He's a great player, but it's been costly, and I think that offensive line has paid the price. Those are
they haven't drafted for there either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Those 2 draft picks could have been 2 of your starting offensive linemen. So
who knows if they would have went that route? Well,
but just theoretically saying, you could have attempted to fix that, but as you just said, you don't have those picks. You're scrambling, and guys, it's a mess. I mean, whoever they fire Pace, and they fire the coach, and whoever comes in, I mean, you're stuck with a messy salary cap. You've got all kinds of problems you're going to have to deal with. So, I mean, I think there's got to be a change, right? Someone's got to go.
I agree. I think both of them have to go. And they talked about even maybe with the president going to, blowing the whole thing up and trying to get somebody that is a football mind.
Okay. Yeah. You said president,
general manager to get your coach. But it seems like they just keep shooting themselves in the foot over that.
Said the president, what, you have Trump blow up the Bears? That's fine.
President of football operations.
Anyway. So again, we mentioned college, and I mean, basketball, Dewey, I think basketball should generally go off without a hitch, right? I mean, I know they're having trouble getting going. I know that, DePaul's had problems getting going. Some other schools have problems kind of getting going here, but it seems like they've been able to at least start. Do you think it'll continue? I mean, I guess we just don't know.
I'm concerned because you can look at your phone every day, and you heard Krzyzewski talk about it last night about
what was that though? Come on, after a loss to Illinois, you go.
No,
we're not. I was kind of weak, but anyway,
I agree with that. But I'm saying the number of teams with the issues.
Yeah,
the NBA did it right, no doubt about it.
Well,
flawless,
right? But you can't lock all these kids into a bubble, so.
No, but I think there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road with this. Look at Coach Drew and Baylor, how late they had to start because they had some issues. This is going to be something you're going to deal with the whole season.
Yep. I agree. Will we see fans in the stands for baseball?
Boy, that's a good question.
Even spring training, do you think you'll see fans allowed in spring training? I don't think spring training.
Well, I'll say this, because what I do during the day, I can tell you right now, Arizona's restrictions are extremely tight. Florida's are not.
Yeah. So, but isn't more teams, I think, are in Arizona than are in Florida?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So we'll see. I hope so. But yeah, I don't think so. I would think June, July, maybe.
I'm hoping by July.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be sooner because of the precedent set by the NFL.
Yeah,
Look
but
at Miami.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. And again, it comes down to city to city. I mean, Chicago's handling things much different than, Cleveland, or much different than Minnesota.
Yeah, some of these other, yep.
You just
Pittsburgh.
Don't know. Yeah. So, lots and lots and lots of questions. That's for sure. A lot coming up. The next couple weeks. Next week is early signing day for college. That'll be keeping me busy for the next 4 or 5 days. I'll have final rankings. I'll have some team stuff breaking down. That's a whole other hour podcast on how recruiting is being affected and how this entire 2021 class in particular is just getting completely screwed. We'll do that. Maybe I'll do that separately on something, but it's absolutely crazy. Kids are going to be signing letters of intent in less than 2 weeks. Guys, in most cases, the schools that they were never allowed to make an official visit to. Let that just sink in a little bit.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. That's like Dewey, you taking a job in like Florida, and you kind of think you know what you're going to be doing, but you haven't seen the actual like building or the company. You haven't you've Zoomed people, right, but you haven't met them, and you're going to spend 4 or 5 years of your life down there. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts. Well, welcome to the pandemic. One last one before I let you go, and we always got to finish with something fun. Joe knows that. So
yes.
Christmas is coming up. I will start with young Dave Dwyer. Billy, it's twofold. Number one, when young Dewey was growing up, the best gift you ever got as a kid, what was it?
Oh boy. Well, back then, Nintendo game system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we talking like the I'm trying to think the one.
Hours and hours of Tecmo Bowl in my mom's basement.
There you go. Okay. Joe?
Yes.
I know you've been around a little longer than Dewey.
Oh, a little longer, yes.
A little bit.
One of my, as if it was like yesterday, because I got something like that for your buddy for his first birthday. I got Kane a baseball game, and I actually wore it out. Okay. The baseball game where you throw the little steel ball, and it's got a spring-loaded bat, and the pitcher throws the ball, and you got to hit it in the cups for a single, double, or out, whatever. I had one of those games, and we got Kane one for his birthday, and everybody absolutely loved it. He loved it, and we played it most of the night. And that was one of I played that all the time as far as a game was concerned.
I had a couple. I remember I was real young. I got an actual Batmobile, like the actual metal.
A real one you could drive?
No, not one to drive. No, but like the metal die cast.
Yeah.
It was cool. I was young, but it was cool. And the other one that I got a little bit later on, but it was funny because I actually found one on, I think it was eBay, and the wife got it for me a couple years ago. Remember Super Toe?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. I think Zach had one of those.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Or no, was that before your time? All right. So Super Toe, see if you could tell if I planned in advance, I would have had a graphic to put up to show you what it looked like, but we can hope next week. So Super Toe was like a plastic guy, and he was built like this, like a football guy.
Built like
a top of his head, and he would kick the ball. So
I know now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it had goalposts that you could set up and everything. And the best part about Super Toe was if you learned after a while, if you leaned him back a little bit and you could place the ball on its side instead of straight up and down, you could increase your kicking distance like triple. we literally put like dents in the plaster because we were banging Super Toe so much. So Super Toe was awesome, absolutely awesome. So hang on, we got someone chiming in here. Bears uniform with foam rubber insert helmet. I remember those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For Gary Lyle. Wow. Yeah. You know what? It's funny you mentioned Bear stuff because the other thing that I think everyone can relate to, Dewey, see, I don't know, you're in that weird range. But no, but just from if this was a thing or not, if you're too young for it. I mean, like the Sears catalog.
Oh, yes.
Dewey, does that ring a bell at all or no?
Yes.
Oh, everything. And Joe, it was like, and again, you were a little bit older, but the first thing you would go to would be like the NFL jerseys. Like they had like the jerseys in there, every team.
Yep.
And those were huge. God, like every kid in the world. And one of the, there's a lot of great Twitter accounts, but one that I always have to shout out to because they do just amazing stuff and they crack me up all the time. Hang on, I want to get the exact Twitter handle. Super 70 Sports. They run that stuff all the time, and it's just it was such growing up. I mean, that was like the thing. You know, people would have different you'd have like the Bear jersey and all the different stuff. And
well, like Gary said on his this one, they used to have the whole uniform in the Sears catalog.
Yeah.
Like you say, get the pads and the pants and everything, and run up and down the house, and couldn't wait to get outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Then your big brother would head slap you with the helmet on. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Remember that. So all right, gentlemen, we've put in a full hour and I appreciate everybody joining us and hope you enjoyed the show. We definitely hang on. We got a late question here. Do you think spring football will happen? Magnum Life, right now, I'm at about 50-50, and that's being about as positive as I can. If you want, go back to the rebroadcast. We talk a little bit about IHSA football and what's going on. Dewey, Joe, your thoughts? Are we going to get spring football?
I'm 50-50 with you, and what we talked about before with the kids in school and stuff like that. If that's not a reality, I don't see it happening.
Dewey?
60-40, no.
Yeah. So Magnum, there you go. Probably not the answer you or any of the kids or the coaches wanted to hear, but as I've said before, you know, I'm trying to stay as positive as I can, but I also can't lie. And everything I've heard and everyone I've talked to, really, the basics of this whole argument haven't really changed since things started in March, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So. All right. Well, that is going to do it. I appreciate everybody for watching and joining us. Dave Dwyer, Dewey joining us, and, of course, Joe, the Coach Rodriguero, joining us. And, guys, we'll plan on hopefully being back here next Wednesday. Again, you can find this on the Edgy Tim on my Facebook page. It's on there right now, Facebook Live. Also go to YouTube, the Edgy channel. And, again, I'll start promoting those a little bit more and more. And, yeah, join us every Wednesday. Be glad. We'll probably bring in some different guests. We can have all kinds of guests in here, so we'll try to get things rolling. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right, take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.